Good afternoon. How are you? Well, I spent so much time catching up, it's getting dark again this evening, so I'll sort this out. It's good to be on the road. I can't describe how pleasant it is. The leaves are changing colors, there's briskness, there are animals running around, deer run in front of you while I walk the roads here. I'm very occasionally dodging cars from behind. The Jefferson weather desk says that our temperature is 64 right now, and our humidity is about 37, and the wind's about 4 miles an hour. I do feel a slight wind, and I apologize if the mic picks up sound as I'm walking, but walking among trees is usually not as bad. You may remember, if you've been following my comments and observations, that I thought this could be a campaign like we've known some people from Minnesota to support, which is happy warriors. And I was thinking of that when Kamala Harris was breaking into the election. And I think that she's just that. I heard part of her rally this afternoon, and her rally, she is engaged. She's talking seriously, she's joking, she's a powerhouse. And the introduction of video shows proving exactly what she's saying at the rallies, I think, is very helpful. Now, I think this has been a good day for the good guys, you and I, who believe in a republic and believe in democracy. And I say this because about 2,000 pages of heavily redacted prosecutorial documents were released today to the public. And Trump apparently said he'd like to say something about those, meaning probably like to stop them. And the judge said, go ahead, you're free to do that. So for those who need even more documents describing what Trump has done, trying to overturn an election, interfering in the election, being part of a conspiracy with bogus electors, well, it'll be out there over the next several days. And it couldn't come at a better time as we're closing the doors on this election. And it's interesting that after Trump attacking Chutkan, we have him channeling Abraham Lincoln. There is no bounds to this guy's ego, nor is there enough information for him to know when he even approximates the truth or history in this case. And he was saying that if, he could have ended slavery. He could have done it. He could have settled it without bloodshed. And I suppose he thought he was better. And can you imagine him talking to Calhoun or Clay or Lincoln himself? The other problem that we have here is that the states were seceding from the Union before Lincoln got elected, before he was president. So he would have accomplished something that nobody could have accomplished. Not only would he need a time machine, he'd also have to manufacture the events in such a way. But he counts on people not knowing anything about, in this case, the history, or those who think there's something wrong with having the documents for his prosecution at this critical time. So instead of having the trial, he delayed us into a period in which what we have is even more evidence of his wrongdoing. Now, we have Trump dancing to his tune, but the Democratic music and dancing is of a higher quality than those of the Orange Toad, because he has perhaps encouraged hip-hop stars Lizzo and Usher to join Kamala Harris tomorrow, Saturday, at one of her rallies. And you can bet that's going to be a better matchup. By the way, we've learned that you may remember we talked about how the betting was indicating that there were people who were betting for Trump. Well, now it turns out the betting line touting Trump appears to have been subsidized, shall we say, underwritten by supporters of Trump. And this guy can't do anything on it. He can't speak honestly. He doesn't know enough even to make up stories that could be believable for more than several hours. And there's another connection to the Florida judge, Cannon. She's the judge in the prosecution of Ryan Ruth. He's the attempted assassin of Trump, and he's made a motion to not have to stand before her and to remove her from the case because she won't be fair. And he doesn't think he should have to risk that or be put up with that. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I think what we have is another instance of Trump out of control last night. They're coming with greater frequency and sequencing more, I don't know how to say it, abundantly, I think. Trump introduced a chill and critical booze at the Al Smith dinner last night. And I mentioned that, I think, this morning. But the way he reacts, he throws everybody under the bus. He says that Trump, his remarks were not what they were hearing. He was blaming the writers, including some people from Fox who gave him some jokes to tell. Trump also has said today that he wants no ads on Fox, and he was going to talk to the people at Fox and try to get those ads off there. Apparently they're hurting him, and that's good. The final thing that comes to my mind is in the book that Woodward finished and has just been released in the last, number of days, War. And it's worth reading. First of all, he's a terrific writer, very clear. But unlike Trump, you can rely on his facts. And there's a chapter in there, 24, which is kind of interesting because it repeats a conversation that Trump had in which he discusses his philosophy about how he hangs around and sees what happens. And I think perhaps he thinks that will work in this case. But it's sort of like being in the middle of a fist fight and trying to suspend the fist fight so that, you can wait for a better time to speak. And his close friend and private counsel and conspirator, Rudy Giuliani, he tried this when he ran for president himself. He skipped a whole bunch of primaries, figuring that he would blow the whole thing out of the water and get the nomination because of what he was going to do in Florida. And he spent a fortune in Florida, and he was nowhere to be seen. That was the end of it. And if Trump thinks that he can get a pass to the election on November the 5th by just hanging around, I think he's crazy. I don't think it will work that way. So what's my reaction? My reaction to these kind of various events, looking for a theme for them, it is that Trump is, I don't know if he's on the ropes, but he's lost his sea legs. What worked for him, including how he ran rallies, seems to escape him. He seems lost to not only what he should say, but how he should appear and how he should listen to people who are his advisors, and he's not. So you see more and more Republicans coming out publicly talking about vote the country not the party. But I've also seen signs where I am in which Trump signs are not up, but the signs for other candidates are up for Congress and so forth. So we also see how much more dramatically he reacts to a setback. Now he painted himself into this corner. He was going to delay until there'd be no trial, and he would avoid that negative publicity, revealing what we've seen now for years: tapes, hearings, testaments by people, and so forth. And normally in politics, we would have thought a fraction of the disclosures about Trump would be enough. The fact that they are not is quite distressing. Of course, we're going to find out how accurate the polls are. If people are lying, or they're not being done right, or who knows. Or if they're spot on. We're going to find that out in a matter of days. But the feeling is, and it was mentioned by 538 today in his longer description of what they see and what they think is going on. And they say, Nat Silver says that they're not so much about the snapshots predicting as indicating changes as they occur. And by that standard, I see a couple of things. One is the most legitimate pollsters seem to have that direction. That is to say, it seems to lean, not by leaps, but it leans toward Kamala. Now, I've also noticed that things like the betting line, and then those who poll and we know have a bias, like the Fox polling, they increase their numbers. And what's the advantage of that? Well, if you only read Fox, you'll say that Trump is doing great. But when you have something like 538 that blends the polls together, sort of tries to, if you will, account for errors by having all the different polls blended in some way. Well, if any of those polls are artificially increased, then those other polls that sort of like a fine wine blend other wines into their presentation, then you can get misleading numbers. Now, we can't spend our time worrying about the polls anyhow. We can't spend our time saying, is this enough or not? What you sort of have to do is what you did as a kid in a foot race or an exam or any number of things. You have to persist. Some days it'll feel like we're walking through fire. Other days it'll be like somebody's having a parade in the honor of our candidate. We just have to deal with that and do our part, because out there every day, full of energy, fighting like mad, are Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And they are our leaders, and they are kicking ass, and we just have to help them do it all the way to election day and after that if necessary. And if we do that, we're going to win this damn election. And once and for all, we're going to turn the table on this guy, Trump, and we're going to get him to face the charges, criminal and civil. We're going to reduce him to what he should be, which is an afterthought, but with great punishment, I hope, because he deserves it. To put this nation at risk by that baboon, just not acceptable. So, I say, good to be back in Virginia, and I say goodbye from my cathedral of trees. All the best. Bye-bye.